So why am I even starting this YouTube channel? So a year ago, I had a heart attack. I also broke my neck and got that fixed and fused together. Also had a drug addiction, really, really bad. It was not like your heroin drugs. It was opioids, not by choice either. It just kind of happened. Things happen that kind of put everything in perspective for you. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and give my story. This is my story, and this will give you a little understanding of why I am doing this whole YouTube thing. And it's not to be a YouTuber or any of that stuff. You know, I'm a real estate broker and a mortgage broker here in California. A pretty damn good one too. So I'm going to help the only way that I know how is through real estate and MMA. So everything that I make off of this channel until we get to our goal, I'm going to go ahead and donate it all to Panda Kids MMA, which is an organization me and my buddy we made that will allow kids to find a home through MMA. Also, I'm gonna, I do very well as a real estate broker, so I don't see a sense in keeping everything. So half of the commission that we make on majority of the properties, depending on the commission structure, just gonna give it to help people get into homes, because getting into homes is really, really expensive. So if I could help in the only way that I know how, I'm game for it. It's not going to be that big. It's going to be a win-win situation for everyone. You get a home, I get to help you, everybody wins. So I was born on June 16, 1983 in Queens, New York. Immigrant parents, came here from Afghanistan. Parents weren't doing too hot. They ended up getting a divorce. It was really, really bad. Then when they divorced, my mother, she remarried this other guy, kind of an ass. So my sister and I, because he was kind of an abusive dude, and I'm not talking about like a normally abusive dude, like I'm talking about like broken noses and just a really, really bad beating type of dude. So like he was a really he liked to hit kids, kind of a piece of shit, but fuck him. First, we came out to California. Still it wasn't doing too hot. My old man went back to New York. We were in, I think it was like Tracy, California for a little bit. Growing up in Queens in New York, and we're in Long Island too, and in this place called Bayshore, and then coming out to California, in these places you didn't really have you didn't have like a great upbringing or anything like that. It was kind of rough areas. It wasn't that. Tracy, there wasn't. Tracy was like this farm town, little podunk little farm town. Really, it was a bunch of nothing back then. It's changed a lot now, but back in the day, like 20 some odd years ago, it was a really, really shitty place. Yeah, they ended up getting a divorce, and then my old man came out to California. He said, hey, why don't you guys come out? We ended up coming out. Parents still couldn't get things working right together. They separated, and yeah, I don't remember a lot of what happens in between, so I'm just gonna kind of paraphrase everything. Well, I'm not quite sure exactly how we ended up here, and this next part of the story is there was a point where my sister and we ended up in a foster home, and I don't know, it might not have been a foster home, I'm sorry, it could have been something else. It was like when Child Protective Services come get you. Now, I don't know why we got taken away or any of that stuff, but they took us away to where they hold a bunch of other kids, and it was just a bunch of kids that didn't have much of anything, bad parents or you know, they were abandoned or they were abused, and you know, you saw a lot of that. But at that time I was just really super overprotective of my sister, so I just wanted to make sure that she was okay. So I remember the first night that we were there, you know, it was my sister and I, and we were just we were together, I think, for a few days there, and then they had to separate us because the girls had to be on one side and the boys had to be on another side. And I always had a short fuse, super short fuse, and it wasn't like I was like, oh, this macho guy. It's just I had a short fuse that I was scared of everything, and still to this day I'm you know, I kind of have a short fuse, but it's mostly because I'm just always scared of everything. Like and it's not bad to be scared. It's okay to be scared, but you know, you have to kind of control it. Learning how to control that took some time. But anyway, like I remember the day that they separated us, I really didn't sleep, and you had to be in like these little metal beds, and they brought my sister out the following day, and I was waiting for her, and I remember I was pissed at the counselor, and I was like yelling and cursing at them because they didn't brush my little sister's hair the right way. And yeah, I don't really remember how long we were in this place or anything in between. It could have been a month, it could have been 6 months. I have no idea. You know, I guess you kind of block out the worst of the worst parts of your life. Yeah, then after, so my sister and I were talking one day, and we were just like, you know what, we're gonna get out of here. And we devised a plan where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go first to New York, because this was our plan. We're gonna go ahead and go to New York together, and I was gonna go to New York first, and then she was gonna come the following year. I have no idea why we did that, but that was our plan. Well, I ended up going. I called and I said I'm not coming back, and my sister and I had to separate at that moment. My parents didn't. I don't remember what happened, to be honest with you, and I don't like the way the story is going. Something happened between my parents, or my mom got upset or something, but I wasn't able to contact my sister. I wasn't able to get a hold of her. No, they wouldn't talk to me. So I was in New York for, I think it was like 7 years before I was able to see my sister again. And then we saw her again in the Bay Area, in the Tri-Cities. My dad, he had custody of us, right? He had custody of us, joint custody of us, but he was all the way in New York, and he couldn't see us. But while I was there, I had my aunt there, my Amapari, God rest her soul. She was and still is an amazing woman, and she was like, oh, I'm not gonna have any of that. So I used to go there when my dad would have his visitation rights, and I would go to my aunt's house. And my Ampari was awesome. Like I always knew that I was gonna get really good. She used to always make the same thing every time I come in because she knew it was my favorite. There's these little things called picaura, and she used to make them with, like, you know, a yogurt sauce or like a spicy, and we call it chutney. And she used to always make that. She always used to have this little table where she used to put a blanket over it and a heater underneath it, and it was she was an awesome woman. It kind of like, it was like my I guess she was like the mother that I never had, right? I mean, I had a mother, but she was like the mother that should have been there. Now she was always adamant on us being there every single weekend, and which we did, which ended up being really close with my cousin Saidal and my cousin Mir and my cousin Wajo. And then she ended up leaving us. She ended up passing, which was one of the, which still is like one of the worst things ever. It was one of my darkest moments. Hold on. My cousin Now after my Aunt Patty passed away, the next woman that kind of took the reins on being that mother figure that I needed was my grandmother. My grandmother was she was my mother, and still is. You know, she's an awesome woman, and then she passed, which was another big blow. Which you know, when you have people that close to you, and some of you can relate, and some of you, I hope you never have to relate. It becomes really, really tough on you, right? It's like your whole world just crumbles in front of you, and you just don't know how to get out. You know, those two were like my life support. They always looked out for me whenever I needed to, and I never understood why they cared for me so much. You ever think that, like, why do these people actually care for me so much? Always wonder that. But my grandmother ended up passing. This was after I enlisted in the military. I was in the Air Force, and my time while I was in the Air Force, my grandmother, she had passed. And you know, in a sense though, I've always been really, really lucky that whenever I would lose somebody so significant, I always had somebody to kind of just, without even thinking, they just pick up right where the other one left off, and they made sure that you're always taken care of. Now my grandmother passed, and she was it was a really, really tough time. You know, it was the biggest blow we had in us family, like, period, right? And it was one of the worst times for all of us, for especially my uncles and my aunts. Like, it was truly one of the most devastating times in our family when we lost our grandma, because in every single house, right, you have that one person that is the glue to the family, that keeps everybody together, that's always make sure that no matter what happens, everybody always stays together. And she definitely was that glue. My grandma says something, everybody pays attention, and you just do what you're told. Now, after I got out of the military, I ended up going to Anaheim. That's where my dad was living at the time. And I had nothing to do. I was just like, okay, but I knew I had to go to school. I knew I had to get a job. I knew everything. So I ended up working for a car dealership. And the time that I was living there, my sister was like, hey, this guy, he knows a lot about mortgages. You should go talk to him. And I was just like, okay, sweet. Let's go ahead and talk to him. Now, I did one mortgage before. I started really, really, really young. And I liked it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, let me go talk to this guy. So I talked to this guy. This was in 2005. And it was in this building, and I think it was in Orange. And he was like, everything seemed really, really cool, but he was kind of like one of those wishy-washy dudes. So I was like, all right, I remember more. I liked the mortgage. I remembered how great it was, but working for him was probably not the good look. So I started working in hotels afterwards, but I was doing mortgaging too. And was doing very well. And then I remember in 2008, when everything just went to shit, that was a rough one. You know, we kind of lost everything, and yeah, that was a rough time. And then started trying to rebuild everything back up. Like 2013, I'm ashamed to say it, you know, but I started doing really well, but then I stumbled again, and I don't know what exactly happened, but I spent a few months like homeless. Remember that sucked so bad. And I was trying to dig myself out of it. And now during this whole time, everything that I've ever happened, I never told anybody. It was like a pride thing, right? You just don't want anybody to know any of your bigger problems or anything like that. So as far as everybody else was concerned, my life was great. Nobody ever knew anything. Then I started building myself back up, and I was doing well again. I was doing all right. And fast forward, I got married, had kids, which my kids are my everything. And in 2020 came around. 2001, I had a compression fracture in my neck and herniated disc. And I've never been one that shies away from getting hurt. I've been hurt a lot, like from replaced knees to shoulders to, you know, you name it. I've broken noses, hands, all that other stuff. You know, maybe I'm just like prone to getting hurt. I have no idea. But in 2020, this herniated disc and this compression fracture, I guess you kind of would call it just a broken neck, right? Was really, really bad. I went to the doctor, I was just like, and they're like, yeah, we need to do surgery. And I was just like, all right. Then this whole COVID thing hit, right? This whole COVID thing hit. But so they started giving me these pain pills. And once they started giving me these pain pills, I was like, when are we gonna start surgery? And I had a heart attack. I had a heart attack in February of 2021, and it wasn't a big heart attack. It was a minor heart attack. I forgot like what the abbreviation for it is, but I just remember I was just like, my arm was going numb and my chest started hurting. And I'm a fairly healthy guy. I thought I was. You know, I work out. I try to eat as clean as possible, but I guess sometimes shit catches up to you. I don't know. But they told me I was overly stressed, and that stress could be a factor in having a heart attack. So you have to take stress out. Really, really awesome thing to do is try to have the stress out of your life when you have a herniated disc and you're popping pills like they're Tic Tacs. So then I was like, okay, so I got my surgery scheduled. I was like, that's fine. The pain pills were holding me off until I was able to get surgery. And I was supposed to get the surgery in February. But then COVID happened. And then when COVID happened, it was just a shit. They had to just postpone it. So, but at the same time, they kept on giving me all these pills, right? They kept on giving me all these pills because they couldn't do surgery because it had to be a life-threatening thing. So they kept on giving me the pain pills, and January turned into February, February turned into March, March turned into April. Finally, after so long, I was getting prescribed like I think like 1,200 pills a month, which is stupid. Nobody in their right mind should be prescribed that many, and I shouldn't be able to call and have somebody and talk somebody into giving me whatever I wanted as far as pay pills. These are fucking dangerous, and anybody who's watching this, don't take pain pills. It's a really, really bad. Or be careful with them. It's horrible. So finally, my surgeon was like, "Hey, listen, you know, if we could do the surgery, but you gotta get off these pain pills." Now, he didn't tell me exactly his surgery. I told him, I kind of told him some things that I shouldn't. That kind of puts a doctor in a position that he has no choice but to get it done. So, you know, he had to make some calls and this and that. And they ended up getting my surgery scheduled for May of 2020. And I had to get off these pain pills. And holy shit, was it the worst thing in the world. I have never experienced pain like this before in my entire life. Like, withdrawals is without a doubt the worst thing that any human being could ever go through. It was without a doubt the hardest thing that I've ever done. But I got through it. But only because I'm stubborn and I didn't want to go through the 5 months of doing there's this thing where you taper off and they keep giving you pain pills to kind of taper off. I was like, you want me to keep taking pain pills so I could get off of pain pills? I was like, forget it. I'm just going to get off of them altogether. And I got off of them, and I thought I was dying. And I remember the second day in the withdrawals, everything was like such a blur. That whole 2020, like the whole 2020 and that beginning time was such a blur. I had no idea what was going on. I just remember, I think I was walking. I got up to walk around somewhere, and I woke up and I was on the floor. I had some blood in my mouth, and I was like, so I called my wife and I told her, because whenever I'm going through stuff like this, I kind of shy away from everything. And besides, I have my kids. I didn't want my kids seeing me like this. And yeah, I called my wife. My wife came, picked me up, took me to the hospital, and because of this COVID thing, she couldn't come inside. So I was going through all these withdrawals with like just by myself. And when you go to a hospital, it's very black and white. There's no compassion when you go to a hospital. It's very, very like heartless and very cold, because they have to just make sure that you stay alive. You don't die. So I went through the withdrawals. I got through it. I got out of the hospital, and I was able to go get my surgery. And then once again, I go to get my surgery, and then once I got my surgery done, that was another really, really bad thing. You know, they put screws in your neck, and you get a plate or whatever it is that they do inside of there, and now they go through the front of your neck, like right here, and that was kind of like a weird thing. You know, I wanted to see my kids, and my kids wanted to grab on it. So, but while you're getting your surgery, here you go again. You're sitting there by yourself, nobody's around, all you hear is beeping. And I had my surgery, then I had to relearn how to walk again. That was tough. Trying to get yourself all stable. I was on crutches. You know, still slowly recovering and trying to get better. It took about 6 months roughly to get myself back to normal, at least as best as you can. Whenever you have any surgery, you're never going to be back to 100% normal.